welcome back to another episode of the What's Your Motor podcast. Today I have a repeat guest, my man, my right hand, especially in education and everything like that. I got, I know him as Holloway. You can call him Will Holloway. How you doing, Will?
I'm good, man. How you living, bro?
Good. It's about time. It's been a long time, man.
Yeah, for sure.
We finally been able to scratch out some time in the schedule, with the busy schedule, and been able to get together. So it's, it feels good. I mean, it's an easy Sunday today.
No question.
Nice little easy Sunday. Got some things going on with the fellas, with the boys today.
Saturday, but it's all good.
Look at that. I'm all out of whack.
But that's a testament to how things be going.
It be going crazy.
It be a lot going on. So
yeah, man.
To try to sit down and really, get into it be kind of sometimes. We normally get into it because we get a wrap throughout the day, but like to be able to sit down and pod about some of the issues and stuff that we see, it's been a struggle to get to that point, but like taking advantage of the time,
Yeah, exactly. Time. And I mean, pretty much what we're gonna talk today, I'm sure is gonna resonate with a lot of people on both sides of the coin, right? Mm-hmm. Especially in terms of just the climate of education, how it looks, the perception, the perspectives.
Yeah.
And the thoughts and the ideologies behind what people believe education to be. So, for starters, you sent me a video the other day. Or was it last week?
I think it actually might have been a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I sent you a video in regards to, and actually it's a couple videos that we probably should reference here. I know the first one was the guy that, after a year of working in a high school setting, was calling it quits. And, I didn't have a problem with that if that's just not really what you want to do. But, like, when he started to go into why he was quitting, he was just saying how difficult it was. And, a lot of times he was feeling like it was the kids' fault. But not only the kids' fault, but the administrator's fault for the kids not being able to make progress. And my thing was, dang, like, after a year you made that decision, huh? And then, like, in your description of what was wrong with what was going on, you took no onus. Like, you took no responsibility for what was happening. And again, that to me was like, and again, I hate to even like really be saying, but it's a sign of a weak teacher.
Well, yeah.
That after 1 year at one school, so this is your only example that you're going by, you calling it quits and saying that the students and the administrators are to blame for it.
Right.
And not only that, but the parents as well. So he pointed fingers at a lot of people, but never once did I hear him take any responsibility for the students that were coming into his classrooms every day. And so for me, I just kind of took a little bit of an exception to what he was saying.
Uh-huh.
I do get what he was talking about because I felt a certain way about certain parents sometimes before. I definitely had issues with administration, but like, even when I was in the schools and I was working in a classroom, if I had issues with that was me and the administration's issue.
Absolutely.
It had nothing to do with the children that were coming into my classroom that I had to serve. So first and foremost in my mind was that we're here to serve these students that are coming in, right?
Yes.
And so we're trying to do that to the best of our ability. These students are connected to the families.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to connect the families to whatever resources that they might need in the community to be able to get the help that they need.
Absolutely.
We sometimes take this attitude that everybody is on this level playing field and that when they come to you that they already know what to do and they already know and they already been taught. And like you can teach kids at home, but you still have to show them what that means to you in your classroom.
Absolutely. Because I think we talked about it before, respect looks differently in your classroom versus at home. The expectations are different.
Absolutely.
And even just the way in which they interact with each other with different students.
Socially.
Because they got siblings at home.
Absolutely.
So the way they interact with their siblings is different than, what is expected at school. But I think, like you said, not to be mean, but it does show like a sign of like weakness as a teacher. And before we even delve into it, when we think about teachers, this just always goes back to that saying where it's like, about like being a teacher is more than just teaching content.
So the best educators don't just teach content. Like even if you're not the best, if you really are in tune with what you're doing, you really just can't teach content.
Right.
It don't work. Like you have a group of people that are coming in with all these different levels and things. And so, again, if the playing field is not level and some are up here and a lot of them are down here, a lot of them, when you working in these schools, they're down here. You know what I mean? And so, and your baseline is here. And so, like, how am I supposed to get them up here
Right.
by teaching the material that's here? That don't work like that, right?
Right.
And then if I only teach this material, so let me just say this real quick. I always would tell my classes, and I've done middle school primarily when I was teaching 5th through 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at home, I know you can just get up and walk to your refrigerator and get something when you want to, right? You're not at home, okay? So I need you to raise your hand and let me know what your intentions are before you actually even get out of your seat. That's a rule. It's a boundary that we have to set while we're in here, right?
Right.
So that's the classroom. But I'm also preparing you for when you leave this classroom and you actually go into other social settings, that you know that there's rules that I have to follow there because that's what kind of setting that I'm into,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
It shouldn't be that I get to come everywhere and behave the way I behave at my home, in my personal life, in a professional setting or a school's academic setting where
Under
people
this
are supposed to be.
structure.
So it has to be rules there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some kids come in with a level of understanding about that, and a lot of kids don't.
A lot of them don't.
I mean, that's the nature of what you're dealing with. So when I heard that teacher, when we talking, going back to the teacher from the Instagram example, when I heard him talking about that, it's your job to help them understand those nuances. It's your job to help them come into the classroom. As we say teacher, but we want teacher just to be associated with whatever it is the content that we teaching,
And that's it.
and that's it. And I don't really, we're gonna delve into this a little bit deeper, but I don't see how that works.
That doesn't define a teacher, man. We hate cliches, or we despise cliches. But if we're talking about teaching the whole child, it's not just academic, man.
Nope,
You got to teach them the social part. You got to teach them the emotional intelligence part.
Absolutely,
when we talk about
man.
emotional intelligence, how do we deal with our emotions?
Yep.
How do we, reflect? How do we interact with somebody? How do we handle a dispute?
Yep.
You know what I mean? How do
Yep.
we come back? How do we? And as teachers, you got to provide that opportunity in that space for them to do that and to redeem themselves, even if they do mess up in your class.
In your teaching, the way you illustrate some of these things, for what you're teaching in your content, is by showing them how to actually perform those things, right?
Absolutely.
And so, like you said, so we're gonna have a debate. There has to be rules to the debate. It can't be just one side shouting against the other side, right?
Yep.
So there has to be ground rules that you set in order for that to happen. If you set the ground rules, you can have debate about anything. It could be something that they're interested in, and
Yep.
they'll be more passionate about what you're talking
Absolutely.
about, right?
Relatable.
But we always have to come back to the rules that we established or whatever to be able to have the debate.
Right.
So, but somebody has to teach that. You don't just say, okay, I'm gonna run this stuff. I'm gonna say this stuff to you guys today. I'm gonna expect that you take it in and
Yep.
that you know it.
Yep.
We might be doing it all week, right?
Yep.
But we didn't do anything to actually apply what we talked about.
No.
There's one place where you actually have to do that, and that's a lot of times that's in math. Not I say one place, but not. I'm tripping now. There's plenty of stuff that you can do with these subjects and put the application. But math, you kind of forced to do the application, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's why I use the example. So there's no way for you to get away from the example. But if I'm doing a history test, I can just read off facts to you, right, and expect you to know it.
You got to
But
regurgitate it.
that's not how that works, though, right? So sometimes you have to delve into the character. You have to find out about what their personality traits was.
Absolutely.
Find out what you had in common with them, what you didn't have in common with them, what their philosophies were,
Yes.
and how they changed from yours, right? What did you feel when you were reading about Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I was a little angry. Now let's figure out how to use that anger, emotional intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And put it into something that'll be constructive to when we talk about Adolf Hitler, it's not just us saying random facts in our opinion and hate and everything else about
We're not
that.
raging. We actually been able to articulate ourselves and articulate our emotions.
Absolutely.
And you have to teach a kid that.
No question.
I think one of the biggest things that we hear is, you don't know that? You didn't know that already? And I'm just talking about behaviorally. I'm just talking about socially.
Absolutely.
It's like, you didn't know that? Your mama ain't teach you that? No, they parent actually didn't. So therefore, as a teacher, when you recognize that, if you're a true practitioner, what are you going to do? I'm actually going to start, before I do anything, what are we going to do? We're going to create a classroom community.
Yep.
In the community, have these laws that are binding. Do I want to say laws or want to just say rules?
Rules.
Rules, laws are governing bylaws, whatever you want to say.
Don't step over this line.
Don't do that. And this is our classroom community. We close this door. This is what we abide by in terms of this learning space here. But you, as a teacher, you have to do that. I'm not saying that man might not have done that, but it's your first year.
Yep.
You gonna have some problems, man.
No question. It's gonna be a lot of ups and downs. Like, when I first got into teaching, which was a long time ago, or whatever, I noticed like I'm 2 days in, and I'm like, they not listening. I'm trying to come in and I'm prim and proper. I just came out of a college class and I'm thinking they just gonna listen because I look like them. I'm showing up there. They should be appreciative of that, right?
It's not enough.
That's not in their brain. They're
enough.
not thinking about that.
And I don't care what grade.
It don't really matter what grade. You have to prove to them that you actually care about them enough to show them, like, okay, he actually is coming here and showing up and he's gonna advocate for me. He's gonna do these things for me. He's gonna support me. He's gonna encourage me. He's not going to let me step over this line, which, again, I'm trying to push the line. He's not going to let me step over this line. And he's trying to actually move me forward, right?
And even if he has to reprimand me or scold me, he's still going to show me some compassion and come back in full circle and talk to me later.
That's the relationship piece, though.
Because he's not taking anything personal.
That's the relationship piece, though. And so, again, going back, again, the Instagram post. You work at a high school, chances are, you got rotating classes coming in. There's a lot of students that, you're going to see over the course of a day. I've been in those situations where I didn't have classes coming in and classes coming out. And you got to learn a new 30 coming in and a new 30 coming out. And the same rules apply.
Yep.
I still had to I did all this work in the beginning or whatever, chastising and setting these rules and making sure that these rules was there and making sure that everybody abided by these rules. And how you take the needle off the record and you make the noise like, nope, we going back because everybody tripped, everybody tweaked. We didn't do what we were supposed to do.
Let me reteach that.
Let's do that all over again. We got to reset. You got to do that again or whatever. So I did this in the first couple of months of school. So by the time I get to the third month, when I had to reprimand somebody, now they know already, like, okay, he doing this in love. It's not
right, and it's understood.
It's not something that he's doing just to be, doing it. He not just saying it because he irritated. He didn't come in this morning with a whole attitude because he had to teach students or whatever. That's not what it was. Exactly. It was we've been talking about this. He established these rules, and we've been doing it all together as a community. I overstepped the line and whatever. Now he got to say something to me about it.
Right, and what's even better is when we have this community of kids that will even let you know when they start letting each other know
before you say it.
Yeah, I think that's better for the environment when the kids will hold each other accountable.
No question.
They can speak up and be like, you shouldn't do that. What are you doing?
No question.
Now when it get out of hand, like, shut up. We don't want
that.
It
can go a little too far.
It can go crazy. But at the end of the day, if you govern your community the right way and you actually allow those kids to have that input and have that flexibility to move around and figure out, like, how are we going to operate in this space, I think it really does a lot. But that goes back to the teacher training. So if my man's is a first-year teacher, and this is how he feels after his first year, what supports did he not get? He got the academia, obviously.
No question.
But it goes back to what we were always talking about, that qualitative, once we get in that space, piece, are you giving them the real-time application? Are you giving them a real-time toolkit for them to actually get into this classroom and know that I'm not just going to be up there and I'm going to say, this is what we're doing, turn to page 36, and they just going to do it. Yeah. Some spaces, that may work. But if you working in, I say it? If we working in the inner city, we working in urban education.
I want to just say this real quick, urban education for real. That it happens in urban education, but if you come in there and you robotic and you just reading from a script, it don't matter who your subject, like, unless exactly what we talk about, right? It take a village to do this, or whatever. So when you do come from good parents and the kids had this understanding and the knowledge that I'm coming here and I have to do these things, I have to get A's, I have to get, okay, those kids most likely gonna be locked in. You're gonna still have problems in that particular school though.
Right.
You still gonna see certain things. It may not be the same thing.
It's gonna look a little different.
But you can go into any school you can go into a suburban school, and if you don't do these things that we're talking about, you still gonna have problems with those kids.
Absolutely.
It may take on a different way, but kids are still gonna lash out in certain ways when you don't set those steps up.
Right.
And so going back to the teacher, what supports didn't he have? Management is a big piece.
Huge.
Right?
Relationships are a big piece.
Learning how to actually establish those relationships and keep those relationships going and not take it personal is a huge thing. People have to be taught those things. It's not something that necessarily, if it's not in your makeup, you're not going to necessarily take that into your profession. And so you have to learn those things, right? Somebody has to teach those things. Somebody has to fine tune those things. And sometimes the skills are right there, but because nobody has really said, have you tried that? Or here, let me show you really what I would do in this situation. And then you can take what I did and tweak it to whatever your liking is, right? But somebody has to actually show you. Somebody has to work with you throughout that process. Now, for me, it was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of trial and error, but fortunately for me, I was around good teachers all the time.
Got you.
And so I could leave my classroom on my break or whatever and go watch a good teacher and see how they was really putting things in check and in order and made sure that their class was running like a machine. Now, in those classrooms with the good teachers, all of those good teachers still had a student that was below. They weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. They all had one of those students still, right?
Yeah.
But that student knew. That student knew. That student wouldn't disrespect. That student would. Now, that student might go to a different teacher and be wild with that other teacher. But when they got to that room, even if they didn't do their work, they knew, don't disrupt this environment because they got it running like a machine in here where this teacher is on top of the encouragement. They on top of the checking in with the students. They on top of the academic piece. But like the students almost are like, no, we can't do these bad things in this classroom because it's going to have a poor reflection on what our teacher has taught us.
Right. We know better.
We know better than that. We're not going to do that, right? And so when we do it all in unison, we head towards this way, our teacher is, you know what I'm saying? We feel better about it, and most likely our teacher is going to reward us with something anyway.
Absolutely. And it's two things that you said, because you know we have that professional development that we got to do. And what you were doing a presentation for that school.
Absolutely.
And I think we might need to incorporate the importance of not taking things personal too. So when we talk about that, because we're doing a professional development on anti-racism in the classroom.
Yeah.
So that would be important because obviously we were talking about the policies, procedures, how you govern your classroom and things like that. But also when you were talking about what did you just mention?
Not taking things personally.
Not taking things personally. But you said something else. I just didn't drew a blank, man.
The blanks do be coming sometimes.
Yeah, man.
But not taking things personally. Learning how to manage the relationships, maintain the relationships, continuing with the encouragement, continuing with the academic piece, and just realizing like. There's going to be time that we're going to need to reset. There may be times that we need to kind of, walk away and think about this other piece. But then there's other pieces where you have to also look inward and say, okay, let me go see it somewhere else. Let me see what it looks like in a different classroom. Let me see what it looks like with another professional. Because everybody keeps saying Miss Benton is doing this really well.
Right.
Let me go see what Miss Benton is doing, right? And again, I'm going to say something else real quick. We got a lot of people that are great at management, but they can't do the academic piece. Absolutely. We got a lot of people that are great academically, but they can't do the management piece. What we attempt to do in terms of our training is meld that together.
Yes.
Get you a system based on what we talk about and the principles that we talk about that's comfortable for you so that you can make sure that those two pieces mix. Because I done seen a lot of people that were great at management, but the kids didn't really learn a whole lot. They sat down.
They were compliant.
No question. They sat down and they knew they couldn't do this or that in that room. But they didn't really move forward academically. And then I saw teachers where, if you really listened to that teacher, you was going to learn something. So 3 or 4 kids really got something out of that class. And if the rest of the class would have really tuned in, they'd have been straight. But, like, they were a little bit more interested in not listening and pushing it for whatever reason. And I've seen it was because of the teacher. Yeah. I've seen because of the environment. There was not a lot of support in those particular areas where students may have been sent out and needed a refresh. But they were sent right back in, and that teacher just didn't know how to refocus and get it back together. And so
I feel for my man's, because maybe he just don't know no better, because it does take a lot to be a teacher, especially this day and age. It's just like when you think about teaching, you think about just instruction. You know what I mean?
Yep.
In general, people just think about I'm instructing. They don't think about the classroom management piece. They don't think about the relationship piece and all of that. And I think it's disheartening that he had that experience, but it was like, this is your first year. Take that experience, go try it again, man. Let's come back to the drawing board. Let's give it a chance.
I mean, you in high school, maybe younger kids, maybe try with some younger kids, maybe try with a different administration, maybe go into a little bit more professional development to see what you can do to be able to remedy some of the issues that we're talking about. We're not going to be able to change the things that happen with many of the families and societies as a whole, but when students are in our classroom, we do have a unique opportunity to be able to turn that light on.
Absolutely.
We do have a unique opportunity to be able to get them something that they've never been exposed to before, and help them have a passion for something new that they've never seen, and then push that skill forward. And so you do have an opportunity once those students have come to you, but you got to do something sometimes a little radical to get their attention. You got to do something a little out of the ordinary to be able to make sure that they understand that, this is Mr. Holloway class. No, I'm not doing that with Cullen. Right. I know Cullen not going.
It's an art though to it, right? It's an
no
art
question,
though. And that goes back to us having our conversation just about how teaching is becoming so scientific to where they think that you can give a teacher a script, any teacher a script, and they can read it and it's just going to work out wonderfully. When that's not the case.
Wow, that's a wild take.
That's a wild take. And then it's just like, we talk about embracing diversity, cultural responsiveness, and things like that, right? But you want every teacher to say the same thing.
To read from one thing.
Read from one thing verbatim, and if you don't, you got to do it again. In coaching practices, which is
robotic, monotonous,
right? Super monotonous,
boring.
And it's like, what happened? I'm not gonna say what happened. They've stripped away so much autonomy and personality from the teachers to where they can't even be artistically special anymore. So therefore, like you said, if they go to Mr. Holloway room, they know they're gonna get some humor. He got his line. He's going to try to make it interesting, but he's also going to provide the instruction that you need.
Absolutely.
You go down to Miss Bender class, she not doing none of that. You going to sit and get. You got to sit and get it. Yep. You go down to Miss Stacy's class. Yep. Miss Stacy going to give you a little bit of all of it, but depending on the day, she might not be in her right mind. She got something going on. So she's upset.
She might be a little wacky with it.
But those kids need to navigate those different individual people and those different individual settings of instruction, because when they step out into the world, we're dealing with different people,
that's what the world is like.
It's a diverse group of people. So why would we take away that experience for the kids in education?
Makes no sense. We a lot of times we go to whatever we think is the ideal thing, and then we try to focus on that ideal thing. Mm-hmm. And there are so many steps before you get to ideal. There's so many nuances and ins and outs before you even get to that. And so it'd be so many things that we miss along the way because we got our eyes on the big prize and not the journey that goes along with it, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's just weird that we think we can give out information and input it like we're robots and everybody's just going to be okay with that. You get a room full of personalities when you get a classroom, right? And so everybody don't. So let me ask this: what was the big thing that people pushed to you that would be the money makers as occupations when you were growing up? What would people say? What would be the two big things that people said?
Outside of sports?
Outside of sports.
Doctor, lawyer.
Same too. So I just want you to stop here because I just need you to understand that, right? But so that's the things that we pushed so many years for people to understand. Like, oh, these people make a lot of money, right?
Yep.
We didn't talk about engineers. We didn't talk about architects. We didn't talk about chefs. We didn't talk about therapists. We didn't talk about anything. Electricians. We didn't talk about carpenters. We didn't talk about any of those things that you can do to actually really make a living. And that's actually representative of what you see when you go outside into this world, right?
These different array of people.
So how can you say one thing for everybody? I'm a teacher, you're a teacher, we got 20 teachers. Everybody has to read from the same script. Where's the personality and diversity in that?
I'm not a script guy.
What?
I don't have to take that. I do not have to take that. Do not give me a script. You hear me?
I'm gonna have to stand for this.
And I don't like it for the teachers, man.
It's crazy.
Script stuff is out of hand.
It's wild to me.
Data has a place. Science has a place. Get out of the way sometimes so we can actually. And granted, listen, some teachers actually need the script.
No question. Some people need that because that's how they flourish in that particular environment.
Absolutely.
So I need somebody to script it out for me so I know exactly what to say, and that's how I'm gonna get it done. And again, so I want you to understand, There's a place for that.
It's a place for
It's
it.
a person that does that, right? So like when I'm dealing with people on the phone or I'm walking into an office and I need to talk to people, you can tell like, oh, they strictly they buy the book. They on the script. They not deviating off that script, right? But there's other people that you come into contact and they know how to actually talk to you and work with you, go back to the script, jump off the script,
Yes.
and then still get you to that same place. And they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't take a shortcut. They didn't take a alternative route in terms of something that was negative. They took an alternative route, but it still got you to the same place. And then you felt a lot better about it because we can actually have a conversation on our way to it.
Do you think?
It's crazy.
Do you think Buddy had a script? Do you think he was a scripted type thing?
No, I don't think he had a script. I think what he was, again.
Because I know he blamed some on the parents too. But
so again, you coming into that and you're a young man, you're a young lady, and you haven't had a whole lot of interactions with people with children. It's difficult sometimes, right? So these parents work a lot of times, and these parents, sometimes you're not dealing with a parent, you're dealing with a grandparent. They don't know technology. They're not answering text messaging. You know, they don't know nothing about Zoom calls or Google Meet. They're not doing none of that. So they have to come up there, right? But they don't know the dates to be able to come up there or whatever because the kid will hide the stuff. How many kids do we know that will manipulate their grandparent, their aunt, their guardian?
All too many.
So again, or whatever, sometimes we don't connect a lot of time. You know, the last school that I worked at, the last school that I was a part of, they kind of shunned parent involvement. Mm-hmm. And so that voice really wasn't a part of what was going on. But the expectation is that you have to take care of all of these things that we say you got to take care of at home. And that don't work. You can't talk to them parents that way. No. So again, it's the same thing with the students. It's getting an understanding. It's trying to figure out what's going on with this parent. How can I be a help? Is there resources that I can offer? Yep. You know, we've heard situations where, right, 90% of the parents are below the poverty line. And we both was like, no, ain't no 90%. There's some of these kids living better than us. Some of these kids, they got more resources and things than us. So you got to be careful. So don't make assumptions about whether you think this kid is this or that or whatever. Sometimes or whatever, both you and I, working parents, 2-parent households, right? We got kids that still do things that they're not supposed to do at school. Absolutely. It's not so egregious in our case or whatever because we stay on top of that. But like they go to school and they still make mistakes and everything else. There still has to be a process in place for those kids too.
Right. And
so it's weird to me or whatever, going back to, you know, the script thing, that we think that we can give a one-shot deal to a room full of experiences from all over the place, and that works. On the flip side, I've been in places where the teaching staff and the academic staff and the building staff was so colorful, it actually made up a beautiful thing at the end of it, because this person can have his personality and still be a good teacher, mm-hmm. but it's different from this person over here. This Absolutely. Person was still a good teacher, Absolutely. But they didn't have the same personality. Absolutely. They didn't have the same rules. Absolutely. The kids knew, though, when they switched over from this person to this person, what the change was. They saw the nuance, right?
Yes.
And again, if you see enough of that growing up, right? When you get to be an adult, it's not a shock to you when you have to enter into these places. So a lot of these kids want to be all kinds of things where you have to interact with people from all walks of life.
All walks of life. You want to be able to allow those kids to have different conversations with a variety of people in a variety of different circumstances. But you get that. You can get that in school.
Right.
From the different teachers you interact with.
Right.
I remember Mr. Graff was funny, but he was strict. Ms. Burkowski, she just didn't play no games.
None.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I knew what teachers. Miss Pfeiffer was like your mama.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I knew based on the personality of what I was getting into when I walked in there. Miss Gastro, I knew we was gonna have a field day up in there. You know what I mean? I'm
Absolutely.
throwing paper balls.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But I also knew that my homeroom teacher gonna be looking like, okay, what are y'all doing over there? And I'm still a representation of her, but also an extension of my parents.
Yep.
And I'm representing myself first and foremost.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But you need to give kids the opportunities to actually go through those things, redeem themselves when they do mess up.
Build on it.
Yeah. And I wish, I'm not sure what, our man's circumstances was or what his training was like. But I'm sure if he had something like you said, like some kind of maybe a mentor teacher or just being able to, like you said, go observe another teacher that's doing it well, I think he would fare better and may think differently, and it probably would have been a different outcome, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But when you in teaching, you gotta be. I hate to say it, but you gotta be built for it, man. You
This
really gotta be built for it.
This is a fact.
And it's not something. I hope people don't take it wrong. It's not something you go to school for it and that's it.
It's not.
You know.
So it's interesting that you say that, because I wanted to say, like, highlight you in a sense, right? What you said and what we just talked about was students that had these diverse experiences, are when they get to be an older person or whatever, you can drop them into any environment and they can survive. They can have a conversation, and you a testament to that. Mm-hmm. Like, you've been to so many schools when you were younger. And I ain't trying to put you on blast, but you had a lot of experience.
Six schools is crazy.
You had a lot of experiences going to those schools, right? Absolutely. So by the time you come out of high school, you're such a well-rounded individual because you've been around so many different experiences, right? Then you go on to college or whatever, do your college thing, get out of college, you get into healthcare, you go back to school to get your master's degree, right? Get that. Figure out, like, dang, I kind of want to become a teacher. Go back and get another master's degree. Right. Think about the number of diverse people that you had to meet in all of those experiences to lead you to becoming the person who you are, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so I wanted to highlight that, because when we talk about this, you just ran off a gang of teachers who you remember. Like, I remember being in that room, and you couldn't do that here. But if I went down there, I knew we was going to get a little bit of fun in, right? We was going to do what we had to do, but we was going to get our fun in.
Shout out Miss Gastro.
Right. So, and shout out to all those excellent teachers back in the day, man. We had a lot. Shout out Miss Rosenberg. I'm just saying, like, we have a lot of, shout out Mr. Reeves or whatever. Mr. Reeves used to check us on the way in the room because we used to be musty coming in from the gym. My boy used to make, some of y'all need to check yourself. No, but when we went in there, you knew you couldn't play with him.
Right.
We had teachers that would rib you, like roast you and let you have it. But, like,
you need that.
At the end of the day, they was humbling you and made sure that you knew you had to come back down or whatever and really focus in on what you was doing.
Loving.
In love. Like, I never had a teacher who I felt like I had to do something to because they was ribbing me or whatever. But I've had teachers, like, really flame me, though.
Right.
And it was just like, at the end of it, like, no, I got to eat that. Like, man, I got to take that one or whatever. So it just made you a well-rounded individual, too, because it's people in your life right now as an adult. They're not going to play with you. They're going to let you have it, right? If you come out and you slipping, they going to let you know about what's going on with it. They're going to let you know it. So it's funny, man, but at the same time, it's like you got to have those experiences or whatever, and then you get to a certain point, and they can put you anywhere. They can put you in any environment. You'll be able to have a conversation with anybody about anything. You can find the commonalities. Even if there's differences, you're going to want, hey, well, just tell me about that a little bit, right? It feeds into what you're doing right now and all the good work that you're doing on the What's Your Motor podcast. So I just really wanted to illustrate that, because that's really what we're doing. And to change gears a little bit, that's what you and I do as far as our consultation.
Absolutely.
When we want to go in and we working with these schools and we want to work with these educators, we want to be able to illuminate some of this stuff to you guys, because we see that there are a lot of people that are struggling, and there are a lot of people with a lot of misconceptions, and there are a lot of people that didn't get the type of training that you really need to be able to sustain yourself throughout a school year and throughout a career doing this. I've been in education since 1998. It's 2024.
You've been here for a minute.
So it's over 25 years of working with different groups and people and different things. So we've seen a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I've seen you flourish in every academic setting that you've been in. And so, it's just really time for us to be able to step out and really try to get some of this information, because at the end of the day, we're really trying to get everybody forward. If we teach teachers how to be better teachers, then we get better teaching environments, which that helps the students, and at the end of the day, that helps our parents.
Yep.
And so we create these better environments, right? So we may not be able to go all the way up to the top and change legislation about everything that's going on with schools, right? We just had the MPS referendum where people were voting yes or no to increase this tax money to be able to pay. And so many people were like, well, we're never going to even see the benefits of that.
Yep.
The students may never come up. It may take a whole 4 years for that to implement. So that 4 years of students that went through they may not even see
They
the
might even
benefits.
see it. May not even see it.
And that's how it worked. And so, that's the biggest things that we talking about. So we need to be able to do something so that we can make an impact on the inside of it now, despite the money, despite whatever the red tape says, despite, because at the end of the day, we still need to build these communities up. We still have to change the narrative about what's going on in the city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Like, we got to change some of the things that's going on here, and that starts by really trying to impute into the people who are supposed to be pouring into our future every day,
and really trying to get to individuals like my man's that felt the way he felt and wanted to walk away.
No
from
question.
it, especially like you said, he doesn't know any better. Especially putting the onus on parents, and granted, the parents do have some influence, and they're definitely responsible too. But sorry to say, it takes a village.
Major stakeholder in what happens, right? But like, that part is the part that we seem to not understand is a really, really, really difficult part. We have, so again, just talked about the referendum, right? So if that goes through, taxes go up. That person who's struggling on the line is struggling even more now. They got another thing that they now that has to come out of their check.
Absolutely.
So that may mean going and getting another job. That may mean less exposure and time with your child.
Absolutely.
If you have a bigger family, and again, we can go back to why have children in the first place? We can, all right.
Yeah.
The children here now.
They here.
What are we going to do with the children that are here now, and how are we going to help these families actually overcome these hurdles to be able to sit down with their children at dinner time, instead of I got just enough time to pick you up from school, drop you off, and say get started on whatever you got to get started on, and I got to go to work.
And I got to do what I got to do. And as a teacher, like, you can help mitigate some of that stuff.
No question.
And I'm not saying you can always eliminate it, but you definitely can help with some of it. And we did a lot of it during COVID, making deliveries and things like that.
Absolutely.
And I just find it, somewhat disheartening that, he has to feel that way, and nobody kind of like tugged and grabbed his coat to try to help him understand it, because we do have families that they are struggling. You know what I mean? And we have families that aren't struggling, just will turn a blind eye to everything. We know that for sure. So I'm never going to give them an excuse or let them off the hook. But this is what we kind of like dealing with. And in teaching, you got to immerse yourself in that, because at the end of the day, remember, during the school year, they're with you most of the time. So the things that you're trying to inculcate, the things that you're teaching, the things that you're providing, that social, emotional, emotional intelligence, and the way we're supposed to carry ourselves and conduct ourselves, that's, sad to say, that's on you a lot of times. You know? And you should. And as a teacher, I need the teachers to kind of embrace that and like want to do that and want to feel that, but I can't give them my fervor. I can only tell them what happened. You know what I mean? I can only tell them how my experience. Like you said, when you first started, it was hard to get these kids to even be quiet. My second grade class made me lose my voice. I thought you just tell kids to sit down and be quiet, and they sit down and be quiet. Man, that wasn't the reality.
Yeah, right.
But guess what? I'm like, let me try that again. No, I gotta try that again. Y'all won.
It's on me to flip the switch. Y'all got me today, but tomorrow I'm on something else.
It's kids here. They got impressionable minds. We can't continue to complain about what the kids are doing if we're not even trying to get to them early.
Absolutely.
If we're really not trying to put our hands on them and be like, come back, and standing on it. Even when they try to resist, be like, and trying a different approach and bringing them back again and bringing them back again. That's what they do in school.
No question.
This is where they make mistakes continuously.
Your
kids make mistakes.
It's supposed to be allowed for that. School is allowed for you to make a mistake and be able to learn and grow from the mistake.
That's what it's for. I thought that's what it's always been for. You fall and get back up. You teach them. You let them know. What are we doing?
Right.
What is this educational? Right. It says teach.
Right.
I have to teach and instruct. I may have to provide some kind of discipline, some kind of consequence for whatever is going on. But guess what? I'm still going to show that compassion. I'm going to show that love. I'm going to show that guidance. Because at the end of the day, I need you to become a great human being, the best human being you can be.
I have a whole blanket around you, right?
Yes.
The whole child.
Right.
It's not one thing. So, like, exactly what you speaking to. It's just not one thing. So,
how did we get so far away from that ideology, though? You know what I mean? Has it been the new innovations? Has it been that? I don't know. I just recognize that. And like I told you the other day, I called you and told you I listened to Ray Allen on JJ's podcast, and he said something that was just like, exactly. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to be, a man willing to, plant a tree under whose shade they may not ever, be under. that speaks volumes to teachers.
No question.
I could tell this kid every day, hey, don't do that. Let's do this. Do this. Help me better in this.
Yeah.
Try that harder.
Yeah.
Come back. Do it over.
Yeah.
Sit back down. Let's try that again. Let's try it again. I may not see him actually do it.
You may not ever see that.
Somebody else might be able to see it.
Right.
I don't get to see it, but guess what? I planted that seed.
You were part of the spark that helped that light bulb go off.
That's all I'm saying, man.
So, but you, again, you may not be in the room when the light bulb go off. You may not ever see it, right? I've been fortunate enough to be in this long enough to have kids that pop up. Mm-hmm. Some of these kids are real gangsters and and will stop and be like, Holloway?
Right.
Yeah, what's going on? Oh, man, I knew that was you, man. I don't forget a face. And, you was always one of the ones that tried to do this and tried to do that. Even when we was doing this and even when we was doing that, you was the one that told us. And you was the one that tried to make sure, and that always resonated with me.
Right.
It'd be wild to hear them even say that because you be looking at them like they not living that lifestyle, but like they remembered that.
And that's important because during that time when I was saying it, even though I was repeating it, I'm like, man, he ain't gonna get it.
That boy, I can see where he going with it. He ain't getting it.
And it's not like to, place him in a category, but it's just like you can see it.
It's unfortunate, but like you can see, like they not changing the habit, right?
Yeah.
And you getting closer and closer to adulthood, right? And so again, in my capacity with what I do right now, I see these adults who come into these spaces and they can't talk, they can't have a conversation, they don't know what to ask for. They have an email in front of them and they haven't read the email except for the one line where it told them to come to our office.
Right.
They didn't read anything else where it told you exactly what to do in that particular email.
Right.
They don't have the skills. The range is crazy. The age range is crazy.
Yeah.
And again, that's not to be like I'm trying to talk down on those people that come in and they need that help or whatever, because when they come in there, I got to be willing to help them just like I will be willing to help a 12 or 13 or 8 or 9-year-old.
Absolutely.
Right? I have to be able to walk them through that. But like at the same time, when you get to a certain age and you go into certain places, they're not going to treat you all. Mm-hmm. Again, the diversity in how you actually are going to be treated once you get to be an adult, and the expectation that you're supposed to know.
Right.
You're supposed to know this already. So I'm not going to walk you through this. I'm not going to hold your hand. I'm not going to. You're a grown man. You're a grown woman. I'm not going to do this for you. And so So again, it goes back to that again, right? We don't have the grace and the patience to be dealing with no grown up that don't have these skills, right? So it's imperative that we reach them early and teach them these traits early.
Absolutely.
If we don't have, but how are we going to do that with just the home? Mm-hmm. So for the people I felt like Buddy that wanted to quit after the year, right? But if we only rely on the home to do that part, then we're going to really, really, really have some problems.
Absolutely. So
because unless we're fixing the homes, then we're not going to make that much of an impact with just the home.
That's only one sector.
That's it. And we talk about how many times we said it's a cliche, but it does take a village.
It does take a village.
It does take a village. Like
we need a whole team.
The whole Shabamalam, man, the whole wing ding. So I don't know why we even think that. But again, you had a string of bad days. I've been a teacher who's had a string of bad days, and then somebody asked me a question.
Same here.
And somebody asked me a question, and I was ready to sound off.
Right.
I didn't really care too much about what I was saying.
Then I don't want to hear it
until I went back and reflected and said, "No, dog, that's you.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Them kids was wilding because you didn't set the tone.
Exactly.
You didn't put something in place. You didn't go back to the drawing board.
You got to tighten up.
You have to, and again, as teachers too, this was another issue that I was having and that made it be difficult. I was fiercely independent and had a hard time asking somebody for help. So while I was going and watching and observing other teachers, that was my way of not having to ask them what you do.
Right.
So what you do to make them sit down? Let me go and sit and watch them real quick. Hey, what's going on, Miss Culp? Let me sit down here for a minute. I just came to see some of your kids, right?
Yep. So
you gotta be able to ask for the help, but you can't ask for help if you don't see any holes in your game.
Yep.
So somebody has to critique you. Mm-hmm. So you do need a mentor. You do need somebody that's gonna have some tough conversations with you, and you got to be willing to take that. Right? As a teacher, you give out criticism and that kind of thing all day to students.
You gotta be able.
So
to take
you have
some.
to be able to take some. I know we get to an adult and we think we're not supposed to have to do that anymore. That's a bad way of thinking about it.
And I'm not even talking about in the form of like a teacher evaluation. We're just talking about actually going out and summoning some information from somebody else, and you taking the initiative to do that versus waiting for the 2 times or 3 times that an administrator comes out to observe you, and then you reflect on it, and then you write down some stuff on it, and they give you goals. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about actually seeking out this on your own.
Or the PD that they make you go to.
Oh my God!
When everybody is dog tired and don't feel like listening.
PDs was always done at the most really random, inappropriate, bogus times. Like you let them go
inappropriate.
Home.
Let them have the time, bro.
Go home.
Let them have the time. So administrations do have a piece with this because we talked about this a lot. I used to talk to my principal. Well, what can I do? People want time back or they want money.
Yep.
They don't want a reward a good gift card is nice.
A meal or anything like that.
A pizza party is nice. I can afford my own pizza. Mm-hmm. I don't want you. You can tell me good job and all that, but that needs to come with an incentive that actually makes an impact on me and my household.
Absolutely.
So either give me the time back so I can go take care of me and my household, or give me the money that will allow me to take care of me and my household. Those are the 2 things that teachers, to me, generally wanted. They didn't necessarily want all that flash. And some people do like the attention. Some people do want to be put up on a pedestal in regards to that.
We know that.
So we see that, but like, and again, that's the different levels of diversity that you got in your building. Some people do want that attention. Some people do want to win all the awards, but some people are really just satisfied with you saying, you know what, go ahead and take half a day. Y'all been working hard. Y'all been, really going in with these kids. Go home and try to enjoy the rest of your day. Or, I seen you been working hard or whatever. Here's an extra whatever. Yep. We're gonna throw that on your check, or we're gonna give you a little bonus this month because we see what you've been doing, right? We
use that stuff.
So to me, that's what it's about, or whatever. Because you got to do something to help them be able to move themselves forward too. Right. So sitting there and making them go to a PD on a Friday afternoon when everybody could just be at home grading papers or doing what it is that they want to do at that time makes absolutely no sense.
Or even going to pick up their kids. Sometimes they don't get to pick up their kids.
And I'm saying this as a person who comes in and wants to do PD. I'm saying this as a person that actually wants to do PD as a thing.
Hopefully your administrator doesn't do it at
a really inopportune time. I mean, and again, we've been in classrooms where it started out a little like, I don't really feel like being here.
You gotta turn it up a little bit.
But you gotta turn it up a little bit, give them a little bit something. And again, I remember being in PDs and being like, I don't really want to be here, but always hearing something in the PD to be like, I'm gonna try to see if I can take something away from this. Like, I heard what you said about that. I'm gonna see if that worked, or I'm gonna tweak it in a way to where I can actually incorporate it into my practice. So. But yeah, man, I think it's a lot that goes into it. It's a lot of shareholders.
Yep.
It's a lot of people that have to be able to have a seat at the table in order for kids to be able to see success.
Yep.
So it can't. While those people that he pointed out do share some blame, you at the front of that table too.
Yeah, be at the forefront. You right there.
You right there. And so, and again, I apologize to that guy, that young man, or whatever, for his experience, but. If you do something after 1 year and it's your first time doing it, maybe that really wasn't for you to begin with. It's a lot of difficulties that you're gonna have when you come into these positions. It don't really matter what profession that you're going into. You're gonna have ups and downs, and if you're dealing with people, you definitely gonna have ups and downs.
You know what that remind me of?
What's that?
Before we get out of here, remember that meme I sent you where he's like, God, that job I prayed for.
I'm about to quit.
He said, I'm about to quit.
I'm finna quit. It's over with. I can't do it.
But don't quit. If you know what I mean, really reflect. Do some reflection first before you just give it up and try to get some more perspective. That's the main thing I want to leave.
Find a mentor.
It's very, very important that you do that. Try to reach out and find some people that you might want to observe. You might want to connect with. Really try to build your resource group. For some people that you can actually talk to.
Maybe try a different grade. Maybe do summer school at a different school, and see if you can get to a younger grade, and maybe fall in love with teaching that particular age range.
Yep.
I know for me, whatever I started out I started out too low. I started out with a 4th grade class, and that was like,
yeah, 2nd grade was too low for me.
They're a little too squirrely for me. I jumped up to 5th grade. I was like, this is a little bit better. When I got to 6th, 7th, and 8th, I was like, yep,
that's my wheelhouse.
Here they go. These are the ones. Especially when I was teaching. When I moved into the guidance counseling, of course I had to deal with the whole buildings. But the majority of the students that I was working with were 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students or whatever, because they could actually articulate. They could understand a little bit better, and then they valued those activities and actually got the point of the activity. And so it was a lot. It was a lot more to work with them. So you really got to find your niche. You really got to find like-minded people. We come into these spaces sometimes, and there are veteran teachers there that are so disgruntled, and they have every problem under the sun, and they gonna load you up with it. And you just got to that space, and so you have to make up your mind for yourself
and try to stay away from some of them.
This is what I'm saying. So like sometimes you gotta say, you know what, that person's been here and they done seen some things that I ain't seen. So they may be beat down by the profession a little bit. Let me try to come up with these fresh eyes. Absolutely. I heard what they said, and I want to take note of what they said, but I don't want that to dictate my practice.
Right.
So
for the new teachers, keep at it, do some reflection, reach out, do some research. Please reach out to us at iceconsultants2.com. Also, we're on Instagram at Ice Consultants. Is this Ice Consultant 2? Or Ice Consult? Yep, Ice Consultant 2. Yeah. Please reach out to us, holler at us on there, and keep on keeping on. Keep on keeping on.
Keep pushing, y'all. Keep pushing.
All right. Until next time, what's your motive?